Okay, let's get started. Morning and welcome. Um, it's kind of funny, isn't it? A couple of years ago, we'd be like, okay, now this is this thing called Zoom, and here's what you have to do to ask a question. But I'm pretty sure everybody knows how to use Zoom by now. So just before I do get started, as you know, in Zoom, you've got the chat and the Q&A. If you would like to ask a question anywhere along the way, and you don't mind if everybody else sees it, just pop it in the chat. If you would rather just ask it without everybody else reading it, then put in the Q&A, but I will keep an eye on both as I go through anyway. My name's Melanie. I'm going to be going through this wage subsidy and the training that's attached to it. It's a pretty good opportunity. Do ask questions along the way, please, though, because we kind of live and breathe this stuff and we assume that everybody understands the jargon, and I keep learning that people don't. So please, if you're thinking it, someone else is probably thinking it too. And thank you for coming, and thank you for giving up your Premier's press conference to be here. Hopefully there's not one on right now. Now, just if you would, if anybody wouldn't mind popping in the chat which state you're in and which industry you're in. If a few people would like to do that, then I'll make sure that I use examples that relate to your industry and your state, and hopefully this will be more useful to you. I will check back for those in a moment. By state. I think most people here are in New South Wales, but if you're not, New South Wales Education, thank you. Yeah, if anyone else wants to tell me where you are. HKWA, okay, cool. Michael, you're an RTO, right? Well, we might be able to help you in both directions then. Physio in Victoria. Okay, so we've got Victoria, WA, lots of Victoria actually, I think, and lots of education. Right, so for you RTOs, we probably have got something here that's useful for you on both sides. If you do, actually for those ones that are RTOs, tell me if you do traineeships and I will talk specifically to that as well. Real estate, okay, cool, we've helped a couple of real estate agencies already. Right, let's get on with it. So 30 minutes maximum for this. I don't want to keep you. I know everybody's got lots to do, especially this week. You're either flat out busy because you're reopening, or you're flat out busy dealing with changes. I am sitting here in Queensland, so we have been, touch wood, very, very privileged to get through this so far. So, wage subsidy. Let me explain it. What we're going to cover today is that government is still providing some pretty amazing financial support at the moment, but most businesses don't realise that they're eligible to claim it. So this wage subsidy, I'm going to talk about what it is and what it's for, the conditions and the exclusions, because obviously not everybody can get it, and hopefully from today you'll be able to figure out whether you are eligible or not. Any other funding that's linked to it, because what happens is once you unlock this, it can unlock some other money that you can also access. Some state-based wage subsidies that tie in with it as well. And why we're doing it, is that because it's our area of expertise. I used to have a registered training organisation. We now do consulting for businesses. So we've kind of got a foot in both camps. Also that I am claiming it for my employees. We're all getting it. So it's been really reassuring, if that's the word, to just have 12 months of financial certainty, to know that half my wages for all my people is covered for a year. It's a really nice feeling to be in these crazy times when business is so up and down. And for those of you that are in industries that are booming, it's a chance to actually recruit some more people and be able to actually upskill them and maybe pay them a little bit more if you have to. Now, the other reason we're doing it, of course, is that after the session, you might get us to help you set it up. I'll show you at the end how you can do that with no risk, because obviously you don't want to fork out money unless you know you're going to get something. But you may also choose to do it yourself, and I'll show you in enough detail in this whole thing how you can do it yourself if that's what you want to do. And the other reason is I've got a bit of a bee in my bonnet, is that like any of this stuff, as soon as government puts up some money, big companies just go and grab it all. And I will show you in a moment how quickly they grabbed it all with this one, but we're on a little mission to make sure that some of the small and medium-sized companies get a share as well. Just move this out of the way. Okay, so some background. As you will remember, a long, long time ago, there was a thing called JobKeeper. Feels like a long time ago now, doesn't it? In late 2020, it was coming to an end, and JobKeeper was great for businesses that needed it. There were some that missed out that shouldn't have missed out. And as we've seen, if anyone's been watching any news in the last few weeks, there were some, again, big companies who took advantage. And there were a couple of significant flaws in it. So one was that it didn't grow any skills in the workforce. So government threw buckets of money at employers to keep people on, but it didn't grow skills. And also employees got paid for not working. In a lot of cases, a lot of small hospitality businesses that I knew where they had people doing 1 or 2 shifts a week. The deal with JobKeeper is it was one in, all in, so they had to pay everybody their $1,500 a fortnight, and then, you know, get the back from the government afterwards. So it was not good for cash flow either. So the difference between this scheme is that these are for training places, not just a wage subsidy. You do need to actually train your people to get this money. But what's really important is it's training, not tradies. And when you see anything about this particular wage subsidy on the news, they're always talking about it as if it's just for tradies. I saw an economist on ABC News the other day saying about, oh yeah, the government put out a 50% wage subsidy to pay, you know, for apprentices for their first year. And it's like, it's not just apprentices, but nobody knows that. So hopefully you will by the end of this session. So JobKeeper didn't really add any value, whereas this new scheme is actually quite clever, and it does. So how it came about, just very quickly, October last year, beginning of October, government went, okay, we're going to subsidise employers to train. And the original intention was kind of focused around apprentices, that you're going to bring on a new worker and we're going to give you 50% of their wages for a year. So they brought in 100,000 training places. It was $2.8 billion with a B. And in the first month, 70,000 of those 100,000 training places got gobbled up by big companies. Because as happens with these things, anybody remember pink bats? There wasn't probably quite enough structure put in around it. Like all these things that have had to happen, they've come in really quickly. And there was nothing to say that you couldn't put your existing workers on it as well. So big companies put their entire workforce on it. If anyone's old enough to remember traineeships from 20 years ago, same thing happened then. So it got just about all gone within 3 weeks. So 3 weeks later, they tightened up the criteria for existing workers, and they said, okay, this is only for new workers unless there are specific skills that we need, and then we'll let you put your existing workers on it. So what I'm going to show you in this is the definition of a new worker, because it's much broader than you might think, and also the courses that are available for your existing workers, because most businesses would have at least one or two people that would fit into that existing worker criteria. So even if you haven't hired anybody new, the chances are you should be able to get this for at least one of your existing people, which I will show you in a moment. Okay, when they tightened up the existing worker criteria, by the time the May budget came out this year, they'd used up 130,000 places, realised it was going really well in terms of stimulating the economy, encouraging employment, that sort of thing. Because really, if you're thinking of hiring somebody and you can get a 50% wage subsidy, you can hire 2 people and it will only cost you what the one person has cost. So, and that's certainly the approach that we've taken and some of our clients have taken, is to go, you know what, now's a chance to do some of these projects that we've been thinking about doing. I mean, even this a bit ironic, isn't it? Even the project of getting the wage subsidy out to people, I thought, well, let's hire a couple more people on a wage subsidy and then we can work on this and help people with it. So you can do new projects with it as well as your existing business. Okay, federal budget came out in May and they uncapped it. And they said, right, we're going to put another $2.7 billion in it and we're going to let it run right through until March 2022. So at the moment, and it looks like it's not going to get extended. Who knows, it might get shortened, but its extension is looking extremely unlikely. You can sign up somebody until the end of March, and then you will get a 12-month wage subsidy for them from that time, which I'll explain how that's paid in a moment. So I will just keep an eye on my questions. If you've got any questions that you need clarifying, just feel free to drop them in. I'll just, every now and again, I'll pop back to the chat and make sure I'm covered them. And when I get to the end, if I've missed any questions, I'll make sure I stay and answer them for you. Okay, so let me explain which scheme this is under and some of the jargon so that you can go and Google it yourself if you want to verify it. So the system is called Boosting Apprenticeship Commencements, but it's not just for apprenticeships and it's not just for commencements, but it has been rolled out using the apprenticeship network because that's the system that is already in place to do this. But what it does is it allows any business, any charity, club, organisation, not-for-profit, or any council to be reimbursed up to 50% of wages if you enrol somebody in an approved qualification. It's capped at $28,000 over the year. Well, actually, no, it's capped at $7,000 per quarter. So if you're paying them $14,000 before tax in over 3 months, you'll get half of it back. If you're only paying them 10, you'll just get half of what you paid. If you're paying them 20,000 over 3 months, you'll still just get 7. So 7's the upper limit. It's for most of your new employees, which I will define new because you probably do have some. And it also covers some of the existing people that already work for you, which I'll explain in a moment. The key condition is that they have to enrol in an eligible course, which is where the training organisations on this thing, you might find this useful to you. And actually some of the registered training organisations that we work with have put their own people on it, and then they're also delivering courses for our clients. So you can kind of win-win on that one. And you can claim it in combination with state wage subsidies. So, you know, for those of you in New South Wales, if you've been getting JobSaver, although that's coming to an end, I know, but you could get, you know, the 90%, so you get 50% here plus 40% from the state government. I will touch on in a moment, there's a bunch of other state wage subsidies that nobody seems to know about. I'll give you a couple of examples of those too. So here's just a little bit of government letterhead to show you that it's a real thing. It says that it's $2.7 billion. And if you see sort of second paragraph from the bottom, it says it's a government wage subsidy to encourage employers to take on new apprentices and trainees. And the trainees is a key thing. Like you can do a diploma in leadership and management and be a trainee. You don't have to be a 17-year-old apprentice doing something brand new. So you can be 45 years old. You can hire a supervisor, put them through a leadership diploma, and you can still get this wage subsidy for them. Or you can take someone who you've already got working for you, put them on certain qualifications, and then they're still a new trainee because they weren't a trainee before. Right, let me just quickly talk to you. It's a win-win. I think one of the things that we've got in our favour here in Australia is that we get to see what's going on in the rest of the world before it gets to us. And I think one of the things that our government recognised quite early on is that we have to boost employment here. We have to keep upskilling. 2 reasons. One is, you know, there are a lot of industries who have not got the business that they had and they've had to stand workers down, and reopening is not necessarily going to solve that for them. And then also if we're not bringing in as many skilled workers from overseas, we have to upskill our own people. So if we can stimulate jobs and skill people, then it's a win-win. So economy benefits, employers benefit because you get skilled people and you get money, and employees benefit because they actually get a qualification that they can take with them to their next job. So eligibility, that's usually where people go, am I eligible? Can I get it? So as I said, it's any employer except for state and federal government departments. But you could be a sports club or a small business. The only ones who wouldn't be eligible is if you're a sole trader with no employees, then this is not for you, because obviously you can't train somebody in your workplace if there's only one of you. Anywhere in Australia, it's Australia-wide. Each state has got different rules about what courses are eligible. Of course they do, that's how states work. But you can do it anywhere in Australia, and we have got people doing it in every state, and we just signed up somebody in Tasmania yesterday, which was the last one we didn't have. Any industry, any business size, apart from no employees. Now, full and part-time staff. Let me explain that a little bit. This means that for anyone who's full-time, anyone who's part-time, casuals are not eligible unless you turn them into part-time. You may wish to turn them into part-time because the chances are, if they're casuals and they're doing similar hours every week, I'm not an industrial relations person, but if you talk to one of them, they'll probably tell you that they are effectively considered part-time anyway. Victoria has an average of 13 hours a week minimum to be considered part-time for this if you're in Victoria. The rest of the country is pretty much 15 hours, but that's average. So it's 60 hours a month is the safest way to look at it. If you've got people doing 60 hours a month, then you may as well put them on this and get a wage subsidy. Australian citizens, eligible, of course, New Zealand citizens. You might be able to tell by the sophisticated way that I pronounce my one vowel that I'm not originally from here. The requirement for Kiwis to get it is that we have to have been here for 6 months to be eligible. I think most of us have been here that long anyway, because we can't go back to New Zealand. So that's probably all your Kiwi workers are fine. And anybody who's got a visa that there's a permanent visa. So if they're skilled migrants, but they're on a permanent status visa as opposed to temporary skilled migrant, they're eligible. So they just have to be in a visa category there's a list of visas, and the ones that have got a P next to them that basically say that they're allowed to stay indefinitely. And it includes your professional staff and your experienced staff, as long as you're upskilling them. That's the key thing. Now, I had to do a quick little calculation. It is not all about the money. It's primarily about the fact that it's a chance to upskill, but, we're business people and we like to get money as well. And so we just did a little quick calculation. Say you had 5 employees that you put on the scheme, and you had to pay full fee for your courses, which you probably don't. In a lot of states, like in New South Wales, if your employees are new, then the courses are free. And in a lot of states, they've got heavily subsidised courses as well. But I've done a worst case calculation. If you had to pay full fees for the course and you didn't get any of the other incentives, and you had 5 people, you're going to come out with over $100,000 over the year extra. And, think of what you could do. You could invest that back into training. You could invest it into some other projects. I was going to say you could go on a cruise, but you probably can't. Sorry. Plus, there's a whole bunch of extra incentives, of course. So just quickly, and if you're in a specific, let me just check again where everybody was so that I can talk about an example that's relevant. Okay, Victoria. Lots of people in Victoria. Is anyone in Queensland on this, by the way? If you are, let me know. Okay, Victorians. So Victoria has a thing called, what's the word? Something like the Jobs Victoria Fund or something like that. And it basically says it's temporary. Most of these things are temporary because they're related to trying to stimulate the economy for obvious reasons. It says if you employ somebody extra, so say you previously had 5 people, you can increase your workforce by up to 20%. So if you had 5, you go 6, and they will give you $10,000 or $20,000 for taking on that extra person, depending on the person. So if you hire a woman over 45, I think you get 20,000. If you hire men over 45, I think you get 10. Sorry, men, obviously you're more employable according to the Victorian government. If you hire someone under 25, I think you get 10. There's all sorts of different categories where if you hire somebody they're looking at who lost their jobs the most during the pandemic and what can we do to pay people to bring them back on. If you've got fewer than 5 staff, like if you just got 1 staff, you could still hire 1 person. So it's basically 20% of your workforce or 1, whichever is the greater. So you could get, for example, you could put somebody on $56,000. You could get $28,000 from the federal government and $20,000 from the state government. So that brings it to $48,000. Then if they don't have, say you put them on a certificate 4 in business or something, if they don't already have a qualification like that, you probably get another $4,000 from the state government. So that brings it up to $52,000. And then you get a payroll tax rebate and probably a work cover discount as well because they are on a traineeship. So you could almost get to the point, you Victorians, where you could hire some more people, like new admin people, for example, and they'll cost you almost nothing in the first year. Queensland's got some similar schemes, not in Brisbane City, but in some of the postcode regional areas. So there's an opportunity to bring someone in, train them, create a job, and get a decent amount of rebate as well. I just want to show you a couple of interesting statistics about who's been claiming, and then we'll move on and I'll talk about the difference between existing employees and new employees and who you can claim for. Just check for questions. Nobody's got any questions? If you do, please pop them in. If you want to make sure I cover something, just pop it in the chat. So 60% of the people who have claimed so far have not been in traditional trades. So it's not just for plumbers. I mean, it's certainly for apprentices and plumbers as well, but it's for anybody who is learning a new skill that's relevant to the work that's on the approved list. 40% of them are in small business, so that's better than it was at the beginning. 20% have been employees over 35, so it is not just for kids. The construction industry took it up fastest, which of course they did because they were set up for trainees and apprentices already. They knew how the system worked. They had the right contacts, plus most of them have got HR departments who can organise this stuff. Now, I actually did do some updated numbers. I forgot to put them on here, sorry, but I had a look about 3 weeks ago again on Seek, and there's still about 180,000 jobs being advertised when I looked recently. These numbers are from July. And what was interesting is that it was like 59,000 of them were paying over 100,000. So that's a lot. That's a third of the jobs that are being advertised are paying over 100,000 a year at the moment. So there is a skills shortage. Employers are having to pay more to get people. And if you can get $28,000 towards their wages, it gives you the opportunity to do that. Or if you go looking for somebody and they don't have all the skills you need, you can fill that gap by actually training them and getting paid to train them. So existing employees, let me just explain this one to you because it gets really confusing. And from what I'm seeing out there, that government is getting quite strict on saying the idea of existing employees is not that you suddenly, say you are a restaurant, you don't suddenly go, right, I want to train all my people as plumbers so I can get a wage subsidy. It's got to be a course that's actually relevant and related to what you do. So how it works. This is the little line, sorry, it's a bit small, out of the actual policy that said an existing worker is only eligible to get this payment, in other words, the wage subsidy, in these cases, where they do a trades-based apprenticeship. Now, that's the obvious things that are trades-based, but there is a list. It used to be called Appendix I, now it's called Appendix E, which is what the government considers to be trades-based apprenticeships. So it's got, you know, plumbing, carpentry, all that sort of thing on it. But it's also, let me just have a look and see what we had in terms of industries, and I'll see if we've got an example. Okay. So it's also things like telecommunications, there's a cybersecurity, there was a web design course, but it's dropped off. I think we're having a bit of trouble getting that one through for people at the moment. One of the ones that's quite, if you're in New South Wales or WA, there's a certificate for in sustainability, which is environmental and business sustainability. That's quite a good course. Another one that's counted as a trades-based one is a certificate for in work health and safety. And here's an interesting thought for everybody. As you are probably seeing, if you look at Safe Work Australia's website this week, they've put out a big, long lot of instructions for employers on how you're meant to deal with COVID risks in your workplace, basically. So how you're supposed to deal with vaccinated versus unvaccinated staff, customers, members of the public, suppliers, all that sort of thing, visitors. And it goes through, and it's very technical and specific. And it says, you know, you've got to do a risk assessment and with hierarchy of controls and work out what your risk mitigation strategies are and all this sort of thing. Like, we won't express opinions, but it looks like a lot of the responsibility for that has been placed back onto the employers. All of those things are the things that people learn how to do in a certificate for in workplace health and safety. How do you do a risk assessment? How do you decide how to control for risks? All those sort of things. So if you are any kind of business that deals with the public in any way, it would not be unreasonable for you to say, well, I want at least one person in my business trained in the certificate for in workplace health and safety, because you're going to need it. You're going to need somebody with those skills. So you can't, I know we've got some real estate agents here, you can't go and put your entire workforce on the cert for workplace health and safety. That would be considered to be taking advantage of the system, and that's seriously, you're not allowed to do that. And if you get caught doing that, then and get audited, then they'll make you pay back the wage subsidy. So don't do that. But you could genuinely look and go, I actually need somebody trained in this right now because of what's going on. Even if you've got people working from home, you know, employers are responsible for all the risks of their people working from home. So that was a long explanation of a trades-based apprenticeship, but certificate for work health and safety, certificate for in sustainability, those are considered to be trades under the definition. Another way that you can get an existing worker approved for this funding is if they were a casual, and they might have been casual with you for 20 years, but you move them to part-time or full-time, then you've got a whole range of courses that you can choose from for them in that situation. You could do Cert 3 in business, you could do Cert 2 in retail, you could do real estate. We've got some real estate agents who were going to do like the real estate licensing course. Problem with that, of course, is that you want your people to do that really quickly, you know, and the wage subsidy goes for as long as the course goes. So if the course goes for a year, the wage subsidy goes for a year. If they finish their course in a week, then you finish the wage subsidy. So what we're suggesting to people that are doing in real estate, for example, is that you put them on maybe a certificate 4 in business for the year, and then use some of the money that you've got from that to go and pay fee for service for the real estate course, and then they can do that one quicker, if that makes sense. So you can do 2 courses at once. Also, if you've got part-timers and you make them full-time, then they're existing workers and they're eligible. You're limited to 30 employees in these ones. So you're only allowed 30 existing workers in total to get funded. So the list of trades-based Australian apprenticeships is 13 pages long. And yeah, it's got dog grooming on there. What else did we see the other day? Oh, concreting, all sorts of, but they're skills shortage kind of areas. And yeah, dog grooming, I don't know if anyone got a pandemic puppy, but my poor 15-year-old dog is having to wait about 3 months for a haircut at the moment because there's such a skills shortage of dog groomers. Okay, there's the little definition of it. For it to be considered to be a trades-based contract, it's got to be a certificate 3 or a certificate 4. It's got to be a nominal duration of 12 months or more, and it's got to lead to an approved occupation, which there's a list of that attached to the list of courses. Anyway, it's kind of technical detail. Probably the easiest way is when we get to the end, we'll give you a Google sheet, and you can just pop all your people in their jobs and send it to us, and we'll do a quick look and see if you can get anything. It's probably the fastest way. Here's an example of an approval one for New South Wales. So this was, if you can read it small on the left-hand side, halfway down, it says existing worker trainee, and they're doing certificate 4 in civil construction supervision. So that's someone who's been there for years, and they are now getting a wage subsidy for them. So as I mentioned, a couple of the courses for existing workers, you could do Cert 4 work health and safety, and your office manager could do that, your HR person, your safety person. You could do environmental sustainability if you're in one of those 2 locations. You could do civil construction. You could do telecommunications, cybersecurity, those kinds of things. Now, these change, disclaimer, they change every week. Well, not quite, it feels like it. Government changes the rules, but at the moment, those courses are getting approved. Now, the other big opportunity in this, though, is for new employees. And the definition of new employees is actually a little bit more than what's written there, but let me explain it to you. Hang on, we have a question, let me see. Okay, good question, Michael. If the business is a company, is the owner eligible for the scheme to study and have the wage subsidised? Directors and major shareholders are excluded, Michael. So if your spouse works in the business and is not a director or a shareholder, then they could be eligible. But basically, if you're the CEO, if you're a director, if you're a major shareholder, then no, you're not eligible, unfortunately. They're onto that one. So let me just, before we look at what's on that list, talk about the definition of a new employee, because if someone's a new employee, there's a huge range of courses that they can do. This is just a little sample that's up here on the screen. The easy, obvious way of a new employee is anybody who's worked for you for less than 90 days and they're full-time. So they don't have to be permanent, actually, they could just be on a 12-month contract, but they're full-time. So what do we have at the end of October? If you've had anybody start with you since the end of July, then you can retrospectively sign them up for this. But you've got to get your expression of interest into the powers that be before the 90 days is up. You don't have to finish the paperwork, but you have to have started it by 90 days. So if you had anybody start in the last week of July, talk to us really quickly and we'll at least lodge a placeholder application for you. Anybody who started from the end of July right through until the end of March next year, they are all eligible for the wage subsidy, and they have a huge range of courses that they can choose from. It doesn't matter, say you've got an engineer, they've already got a degree, you can still put them through on a project management diploma or something like that that's relevant to them. The old rules and traineeships used to be you don't get any funding if they've already got qualifications. This time around, you can still get a wage subsidy. You just probably would have to pay for the course in that situation. So full-timers, that's the rules. Part-timers, though, there's quite a big opportunity in there that people haven't really realised. Anybody who's been part-time with you for less than 12 months is still counted as a new employee. So they can still do a big range of courses, and they are much more straightforward to get approved than the existing ones because it's, you know, within the spirit of the rules. So anyone who's worked part-time for you for less than 12 months counts as a new worker, can do a whole range of courses. If they've worked part-time for more than 12 months, but you want to turn them into full-time, then you can get approval for them, but you won't get a free course, basically. You still get the wage subsidy. So a few different little kind of details, but yeah, anybody that you've hired, anybody who's joined you since the end of July full-time, or anybody who's joined you since October last year part-time, I'd be going back and retrospectively claiming this. You won't necessarily get the wage subsidy for the period before, but you can start the wage subsidy now and get it for the next 12 months. Hopefully that makes sense. Now, the other thing you need to consider, if you're going to do it yourself, is that there's kind of 3 levels of approval that it needs for this to work. So first of all, the federal government has to say, yes, this course is approved for our wage subsidy scheme. Then the state government has to say, yes, the same course with the same course code is approved as a traineeship scheme. And then ideally, the state government will also say the same course with the same course code is funded and we'll give it to you for free or at a discount. So 3 kind of places that you need to look, 3 lists that you need to look at to make sure that you're choosing the right courses for the right people. And then some states have different supervision requirements for different courses. So obviously if you're training an electrician and it's a first-year apprentice, you need a qualified electrician sitting next to them all the time to make sure that they don't die, basically. If you are putting someone through a certificate or diploma of leadership and management, you wouldn't need to sit next to them all the time, but you would need someone with leadership skills in the organisation who can supervise and mentor them. So it's just kind of logical, really. Okay, let me tell you how to go about claiming if you want to do it yourself. So here's the things you need to do. And if anyone wants a copy of this slide, we'll send you the presentation actually afterwards if you want it, in case you want to work your way through it. So first of all, you go through the list of approved courses that meet your business and location. So you look at the federal government list and the state government list. We've got a question, let me check. Is there a link of approved courses? Yes, there is. There's actually 3 lists. There is the federal government list of what's approved for existing workers. There's the state government list of what's traineeship, and then there's the state lists of what's funded. So go through those 3 lists, find the courses that suit your business and your location. Look at any new staff that you might want to hire, or you've hired since July, you're going to hire before March, and think about what skills you might want them to have. Look at your existing staff and go, who would I like to offer the opportunity of upskilling to? Now, before you go getting any crazy ideas, you do sign a form when you claim this wage subsidy that says, I have not coerced or directed my people to do this for the purposes of getting the funding. So you do need to be able to go, this is a course that I genuinely want to do in my business. So look at your new staff, look at your existing staff, check that your qualifications and staff meet the criteria, that you've got supervision, that you've got business reasons for doing it, that they're approved courses. Then check for the other state-based incentives which you might get. So look at the date of birth of the person, the date that they started. Can you claim, you know, $20,000 if you're in North Queensland and you hire a young person, or if you're in Victoria and you hire I was going to say a middle-aged woman, but we're not that old, woman over 45. So look for the other subsidies and things. Choose yourself a registered training organisation that you want to use to do the training. Try and choose one with funding, or if you can, and ideally choose a good one. As you know, in the smart years here, there's kind of 2 flavours of training organisations. There's the quick and dirty ones that try and get through the course as fast as possible with the minimum amount of training. I think they're gradually dying out. And then there's the ones who actually want to focus on teaching your people something useful. So decide, you know, what you want from your training provider, choose one. Then you choose what they call an ASIN, an Australian Apprenticeship, it's a mouthful, Australian Apprenticeship Support Network provider. They're the ones who actually sign it up and do the paperwork for you. Each state has got a list. Organise your sign up to get your ASIN, your employee and your RTO, sign them up, lodge your wage claim and lodge your incentives claim for the rest. Now, we can help you with most of that if you want to, or you can do it yourself. I will show you in a moment, we're nearly done, how we would help if we do help. Now, the easy bit is actually claiming the wage subsidy. It's all the front end preparation that's the time consuming bit. We have got, you know, as I said, employees on this, and I've been getting money in the bank, which has been really nice. I did have to chase it a little bit actually, because as you can imagine, the people who are processing this are A, swamped, and B, working from home. So we are supposed to get the money the middle of the month at the end of the quarter, but some of it has been quite late. So just be aware of that and don't count on it to pay your urgent bills. But we have got some good contacts now that we can use to chase up that stuff as well. So once you're registered, you just get a text and an email from the funding people. You fill in a form, say, yes, this person still works here. No, I'm not doing anything dodgy. Yes, they are learning, they are doing this course. Here are their pay slips of what I paid them. And then they just basically calculate 50% of what's on the pay slips and they bank it into your bank account. Now, a couple of questions that come up a lot is, what if my employees don't achieve the qualification even though they tried? As someone said to us the other day, my people are kind of thick, which wasn't very nice. You shouldn't put someone in a course if you think they've got a zero chance of succeeding. Obviously, that's not good for you or them. But this funding is not linked to completion of the course. So as long as they continue to chip away at it and try and study, then you will continue to get the wage subsidy for the 12 months. If you get to the end of the 12 months and they haven't passed the course, then you don't have to pay it back or anything. You just have to show that, they were engaged with the course, they were talking to their trainer, a lot of them are online at the moment, so a lot of them have got trainers where they'll talk to them once every couple of weeks and see how they're going with it. So you need to show, good intentions that you're doing it, but you don't run the risk of, if they fail or if they drop out, that you end up having to pay it back. That wouldn't be fair. And the other question we get a lot is, are we going to have to spend a ton of time on this? It's like, well, no, the training provider does the training, but you guys will need to do the supervision and the on-the-job training. So say, for example, someone's doing certificate for in workplace health and safety, then you need someone in your business who knows about safety, which is, if you're a smallish business, it's usually the owner, who says, yes, they've done this risk assessment and I'm happy with what they did, and signs off on it and that sort of thing. Now, we're nearly at the end, so if you've got any more questions, feel free to pop them in. Just wanted to say, if you get us to help, we are doing it on a no-risk basis. So here's what we were thinking, what I've been thinking. This bureaucracy is not your core business, presumably, because you're probably sane. You are probably busy either because business is booming or business is busting. There's really not much in between in these times, unfortunately, is there? You are very welcome to do this yourself. And I hope that what I've given you today is enough that you know where to start if you do want to do it yourself. There are a couple of buts, though, which I just want to make sure that you're aware of. I keep running into people whose applications have been rejected because they got coded wrong or they got bad advice about how to lodge it, especially on the existing worker side. The apprenticeship centres are doing a great job. Their problem is that they are swamped. Like, they've gone from, 50,000 trainees a year to 400,000. So I was talking to one recently and they were hiring 100 new people who were all starting that Monday. And Rachel, my colleague who's on the call, will be able to confirm that probably 1 in every 3 of the employers that we're working with, they get an email back from saying, your application has been rejected. And then we've got to go and show them. I said, no, actually, you can't reject this, or you can, but you shouldn't. And we appeal them on their behalf. And so far, touch wood, we've been successful in all the ones that we've appealed. So what I would suggest that you do is you get us to do all the setup. Like, if you were claiming JobKeeper, then your accountant probably did all that setup for you. And then once a quarter, you just need to upload your pay slips. So you carry on with your core business. When the first grant money hits your account, you just forward 10% of the amount that's been approved to us, and then you keep the rest and just carry on doing what you do best, which is presumably not manage all this stuff. So risk-free, you don't pay us anything until you get approved. Then you just pay us 10% of the total that you're going to get, and you don't pay it until you actually get money in your bank, because we don't want to do anything that's going to make your cash flow worse. Like, the idea of this is to try and get it out and actually help people. So where to from here? The first step is for us to just do a quick assessment of your eligibility. So what we'll do is we'll send you out a form to give us the information, or we can interview you on the phone if it's easier, if you want to. And we'll just quickly go through it and we'll go, okay, can you get any funding and courses in this system? Are there any government funded courses or wage subsidies available for you? And then you can decide after that whether you want to proceed and do something with us or whether you want to do it yourself. So if it's a really simple one, like you're just about to hire an electrical apprentice, then we'll just say, oh, when you hire them, tell the apprenticeship centre that you want the wage subsidy, and you can just do it. You don't need us to do that. If it's a more complex one and we know that you're going to be better off to get us to do it for you, then we'll tell you that as well. So we may as well just do the assessment, and then we'll decide, we'll tell you after that whether you should go with us or whether you should just do it, and you can make a decision. Now, we are all, as you can see, working from home still. So if you would like to just email Elisa on the email that's here, alyssaw@sagestrategy.com.au. If you've got, she can send you out some info. What we might do, if you like, is we'll just send you the sheet anyway, and then you can decide whether you want to fill it out or not. That's probably the easiest way, hey, I think. I think you, Elisa, she's put a number in the chat if anyone can see it. 0451 733 418. So if you want to give her a call, you are very welcome to do that, and she can tell you what to do next. Now, hopefully that covers it. And hopefully I didn't talk too fast and wasn't too much complicated jargon. If anyone has got on, Rachel, thank you, has just put a link in the chat, which is the quiz for you to just go through and us to check your eligibility. So if you want to just grab that link, anybody, you're welcome to just get started on that while you wait for us to email you something. So if you have any other questions, please pop them in or email them to Elisa afterwards, just before I log off. For those providers that were education RTOs, have a chat with us. We might be able to help you, might be able to send you some students out of this. Message us afterwards if you like, and we can talk about that. For the real estate, we've got a couple of real estates in there. You guys and girls, sorry. We have all had some real estate agencies approved, so talk to us about how we've been combining the business and the real estate license course so that you can kind of optimize that if you want to. Otherwise, for everybody else, all the best. Hope this unlocking down goes well for you all. Hope we get to see you again in Queensland sometime in the not too distant future. And yeah, take care, and we will talk again soon. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.